I'd like to welcome everybody to Keystroke Live. Today we're going to be talking about Purchase Manager Update Parameters. This is generally something you think about and set up when you're first setting up a store or a business. And once they're set up, unless the business model changes drastically, it's pretty much going to be the same. But a little I would like to welcome everybody to Keystroke Live. Remember, we do this every Monday, or Monday? Kind of feels like Monday to me. Every Wednesday, 10 o'clock, same time, same place, same login information. The first Wednesday of every month is Michael Gebb, our president, so he'll be coming up in a few weeks. So we're going to talk about Purchase Manager Update Parameters. I'm going to show you how it looks in Keystroke in a bit, but I've kind of broken it up into updating costs, updating prices, and then other parameters that you might want to consider. There are parameters in Purchase Manager to don't set your costs to $0. There's a way to update your last cost, update your average cost, and then there's a sub sort of setting to reset your average cost. Reset average cost can be used in a number of different ways. Some people like to do just last cost accounting. So if that's the case, you're going to reset your average cost all the time. So your last cost and average cost is the same. Also, it's a good parameter if you ever find yourself selling items into the negative. You put things on your shelf and you sell them before you've received them in Purchase Manager. That can mess up the average cost if you're setting up or averaging a positive and negative amount. It really skews your average cost. So in cases like that, you can reset your average cost only when it's going to cause things to be skewed. There's also a cost of goods sold adjustment and settings for that. And then there's also the vendor cost that is kept as part of the inventory record. And with that cost, as well as the last cost, you can distribute any discount or shipping from your vendors to the vendor cost or the last cost. Now, the other thing you can update in Purchase Manager is your base price. Remember, base price is the highest price you are ever going to sell an item for. So it's pretty much the price that someone who walks in, they're not a special customer, they're not wholesale, anything like that. They just walk in, pick it off the shelf, and pay for it. That's the base price. You can set up Purchase Manager to update the base price of an item, especially if your cost changes. You want to create a price table that's just for price adjustments. And Keystroke sample data kind of gives you a little example of that. And it's actually called price adjustments. It's not designed to be used with the customer. It's designed to update your base price. And as part of that price table, you can set it up so you're only increasing prices, not decreasing. If your costs go down, you probably may not want to lower your price. So there's a setting on a price table to have a $0 minimum markup on the base price. So your prices only go up and don't go down. There's also in Advanced Only a way that you can calculate a new price based on the price table that I just mentioned, or you can manually change it too. And there's screen modes in Purchase Manager that allow you to see that information. Some other parameters that you can update in Purchase Manager include rotating the vendors. In Keystroke POS and Advanced, you can have up to 4 vendors per item. And what rotate vendors means is the last vendor you purchased it from happens to be the top one in the list. You can also choose to add your vendor part number to your alternate code list. This is a great idea. It's real easy. It'll do it all the time. And it makes it easier if you do need to find an item by the vendor part number versus a UPC code. Last cost and vendor cost can be distributed cost. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. You can also choose to update the transactions clerk when you edit a purchase order. Now, the clerk is always going to change if it's a different clerk if a purchase order is converted to a purchase invoice. But sometimes you want to see who is the last person who touched this order. One person may start it, somebody else on up the line may go through it and verify that this is what they want, maybe change some things. So you can choose to update the clerk when you edit a purchase order so you can kind of see who was the last person who looked at it. And you can choose not to update your open order list, which is just a list of items that you have on order from your vendor. I want to take a look here at Keystroke now and kind of show you how all this works. Your update parameters are here under the transaction menu, parameters, update. These are all the parameters we just talked about. Our help screens are really good with a lot of these. So if I'm not giving you enough information here, you can always take a look at the help screens. So this is where you choose to update your last cost. You can choose also not to set it to 0. And some ways that might happen or why Keystroke might try to send it to 0. Say, for example, you've been a really great customer of a particular vendor, and they have a promotion that if you buy so much of a certain product, you get some free. Well, the costs on those are $0, but you're not going to set your cost to $0 in Keystroke. The same thing with, you can choose to update your vendor cost and not set that to 0. Now, I told you a little bit about update average cost. If you want to do average cost accounting, I would suggest updating average cost, but also check reset average cost if you tend to sell into the negative. The other option is if you always want to do last cost accounting, you can turn off update average cost so it won't average your costs. It's always going to set your average cost to be the same as your last cost. So that's how you would set it if you're going to do last cost accounting. Now, instead of resetting average cost, if you are going to do average cost accounting, you can update your cost of goods adjustment. And these are the settings we're talking about. So what that's going to do if your cost significantly increases or decreases, it's going to apply an adjustment to the cost of your items, either as they're sold, and you can do that by applying the full amount, or it'll separated out by the quantity on hand. That's up to you. Or you can do it as purchase invoices saved. And you know, there's several ways to do this. I'm not going to get into the definition of cost of goods sold and how this works for you. I'd be happy to discuss it with you if you give us a call at the office. I'm not going to really get into the ins and outs of how this parameter works at this point. I generally prefer to do, I like the average cost accounting, or we could do last cost accounting. Here's where you set up, where you update your price. You don't have to. You can just turn that off. But if you're going to update your base price, you need a price table. So Keystroke can at least calculate, based on a formula that you choose, what the new suggested base price is. And it is based on a price table. Let's take a look at this price table for a second here. Okay, this is our price adjustments price table. This is a pretty simple price. Basically, you're just going to say, you know, mark down. This is marked down from base price, but most likely it's going to be something like you're going to mark up, say, 75% from your last cost. That's going to be what your formula is going to be for, in this case, all price codes. This is for every item throughout your store. This can get really complicated. You can have all kinds of different price codes. We're not really going to get into that. This is where, if you only want your prices to go up, you set a minimum markup of 0% from base price. That means even if your costs from your vendor go down, you are not going to adjust your base price down because your costs go down. So this is just a sample formula used only in purchasing. It's not used for customers or anything like that. Very simple. You're going to mark up 75% from your last cost. You can kind of actually see a little in words, or a kind of a mathematical formula of what this price formula and price adjustments is going to do. And then you can, you know, save this. You can even have price patterns and that sort of thing. We're not really talking about price formulas today, so I'm not going to go into that. But it's very powerful for setting your prices. So you can set your prices based with price adjustments, and you can calculate the new price and show it on the screen. This is where you choose to rotate vendors. Yes or no, it's up to you. You can add the vendor part number to your alternate code list. It's a great way to help, even in sales or in purchasing, look up items by the vendor part number versus the UPC code. You can distribute any discount or any shipping cost that your vendor has based on the quantity, based on the cost, or based on the weight. How you do this is kind of up to you. It really depends, you know, are you buying on the same purchase order some very expensive items and some very inexpensive items? In that case, you may not want to distribute the discount based on quantity. You may want to do it on cost. Now, likewise, you can distribute your shipping. Okay, again, your shipping costs. Are you buying things that are very large and heavy as well as things that are very small? In that case, you may want to distribute your shipping based on weight. If they're all kind of the same size, same cost, maybe you want to do it on quantity. Lots of choices here, but you don't have to. If you do decide to distribute, discount, and shipping, it will, and you're using average cost accounting, it is always going to distribute your discount and shipping on your average cost. You can choose, if you'd like, if you're going to distribute your discount and distribute your shipping, you can choose to make your last cost your distributed cost and your vendor cost your distributed cost. That's, again, up to you. These miscellaneous parameters update the transaction clerk. Delete filled orders. This is a wonderful one. A lot of people get really confused. If this parameter is not checked, even when purchase orders have been fully received, they're still going to be in there. It's just their quantities are all going to be 0. Some people get really confused on that. I like to recommend to delete the filled orders. When you're finished with them, they go away. And this, you can choose to update your open order list. I want to show you the different screens for calculating new price. Now remember, this calculate new price is an advanced only feature, so it's not available in Keystroke POS. I want to show you those screen modes, and I want to show you what the open order list is all about. So let's take a look at these. If you go to your transaction menu and you go to edit print, here are open orders. If you're allowing Keystroke to keep track of orders, if you just want to see, hey, did I order this item? Okay, so you can take a look and go, do I have an open order? And I'm going to look it up by stock number. Here's all the open orders I have by stock number. I have stock number 11, a mouse pad. I've got 50 of those on order. This lists everything that I have on order. So it's been ordered from my vendor, but it has not yet been received. There's many ways you can look at these open orders. You can say, oh, do I have any orders for a particular vendor? It'll list all your orders by vendor. So it's a great way, a quick way to just look up what you've got or to find the purchase order where a certain item is included. And if you click on the open order, it will bring up the whole purchase order that an item was on. Let's take a look here at your screen modes. This is pretty much a standard screen mode here. On order, received, what your cost is, what the extended cost is. But there are a lot of different screen modes. And you set what is available under the display parameters and here in screen modes. Just so you have an idea of what all these look like, I'm going to turn them all on for purchase orders. And because I'm using advanced POS and I want to calculate my new price and all of that, I want my default mode to be one of the new price modes. So the new price, I can show the quantity and the markup, quantity and profit, or on order, profit markup, total order, profit markup. I'm going to just choose a new price, total order, and markup. Now, when you have your screen modes set, when you're in Purchase Manager, Shift F9 is going to change your screen modes. Notice I just hit that once. Instead of on order and received, I now have total order, total received. I do Shift F9 again. Here's my quantity ordered. my new price, which it hasn't really calculated anything because my costs haven't changed or anything like that. But if I change, my cost here, it's going to say, okay, my suggested new price is going to be $8.75. If you want to see what the old price is, you can hit F3 here, and it was $8. So your price is going up. Remember, you can continue to hit Shift F9, so you're going to have profit instead of markup. Order received. It's really up to you what you want, but one of these new price screen modes, it makes it very handy to see what your prices are. And then if you go, oh, $8.75 is too much, but I do need to raise the price, so I'm just going to change it to $8.50 because my price went up. Because my costs went up. And, this item, okay, my cost went up to $7, so it's saying my price should be $13.50. My existing price is $13.50. So it's not really suggesting I change the price on this one. So, as I said, this is a great way of having Keystroke figure out for you exactly what your new price is. So if I receive these items and I save this purchase order, all those items have now been received. So let's go back as a little bit of a review, and I'm going to open this up for questions for Purchase Manager. I kind of broke this up into 3 different things to update. One is update your costs, your vendor cost, your last cost, your average cost, cost of goods sold. All of that is available. You can also, if you want, you don't have to, update your base price based on a price table. And then you can calculate your new price and have Keystroke update that or adjust it and automatically update your prices. Then there are some other miscellaneous parameters. I neglected to put delete filled orders on here, but it's definitely a good way to keep your purchasing kind of cleaned up so that you don't have old purchase orders in there. We've talked about transaction maintenance in the past, and old invalid purchase orders just kind of clutter things up. And here's just a little bit of what your screen looks like. Does anybody have any questions on these update parameters?
Yeah, can you run a report that shows all of your price changes?
Yes. I don't know if there's a standard form for that. I could dig into it a little bit more, Scott, and let you know if that'll be okay with you.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
And can you also, I believe you just didn't go through it, but you can set the update price so it always ends in 0.99?
Sure, that's all part of your price table.
Okay, right, okay.
There's rounding and how you want it to round. This is complicated enough without getting into price tables, but yes, you can set it so all your prices end in 0.99 or 0.95 or something like that based on your price table.
Great.
Anybody else? Well, Scott, I will get back with you. I want to thank everybody for being here today. As I mentioned, this is something that you put some thought into when you're first setting up a business. And once it's set up, you might make a few tweaks here and there as you get used to Keystroke. But after that, it's probably not anything that you need to deal with. Once it gets set and it seems to be working for you, these parameters will continue to work as you need them to. Next week is going to be Mike Tabor with multi-store purchase orders, which is a very powerful feature if you have uh, several locations of a business and you're using our multi-store module. Everybody have a great week, and thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.